For your participation, complimentary access to the most up-to-date Philippines economy report with 500 British pounds. The link to access the report. Now, let's take a look at what we have lined up. Profiles, check out the agenda if you're in Brasilia, or visit bit.ly/StarBiz2021. If you have any questions for any
So I say the word innovation and you immediately think, the pulley. Wait, what? Stay with me. Let's go back to around 25 BC. Archimedes of Syracuse. Major big brain dude. He had this incredible idea. Here's how his buddy Plutarch reported it. He said Archimedes moved an entire warship using pulleys and his own strength. That is innovation. Not 2.0 or an upgrade or the next generation, but something that changes the way we think and work and live. The heralded breakthroughs have more often than not merely walked to the edge of innovation. The cloud and AI and low code. Complex problems can only be solved by solutions that don't cause more problems. So what would Archimedes do today? He'd build a pulley and call it robotic process automation. Make the tech learn the human, name the task, name the workplace. RPA allows companies to automate at the UI level, connecting disparate technologies. Granted, that's a really wonky sentence. All it means is this: you and your employees can now pull vastly more than your own weight.
This is the new world of work. Each day looks different than the last. But whatever work becomes, the ServiceNow platform will make it just flow. Whether it's finding new ways to help you serve your customers, orchestrating a safe return to the office.
Wait, an office? What's an office?
Or solving a workplace challenge that's yet to come. Wherever the new world of work takes your business, the world works with ServiceNow.
Welcome to the future. You're gonna wanna get ready. You're gonna wanna get ready. You're gonna wanna get ready. Get ready. Get ready. Get ready. Welcome to the future. Welcome to the future. Welcome to the future. Here we are making history, higher than we've ever been. You're gonna wanna get ready, get ready, get ready. Welcome to the future.
You always knew you'd be in for a ride. There'd be ups, downs, twists, and unexpected turns. It would be an exciting journey, even a little scary at times. And although it's difficult to predict what's around every corner, there's something else you understood. Transformation is essential for your business, your people, and your customers, so you can stay agile, resilient, and relevant in an ever-shifting marketplace. At SAP, we understand that true transformation is a journey too. It goes beyond the edges and deep into the core of your business. But it's a journey you don't have to take alone, no matter where you're starting from and where you want to go. We're by your side to simplify planning and execution and integrate data, intelligent tech, with cutting-edge ERP that will accelerate outcomes on your terms and on your timelines. The road ahead is clear. The next turn truly transformative. It's your time to rise with SAP.
You've heard it before. The connected age. Life at the speed of the internet. It's a digital world. What you might not have heard is that we can keep it safe. Because at CrowdStrike, we stop breaches. So wherever you go, go with confidence. Anywhere. Welcome to Anywhere. CrowdStrike. We stop breaches.
Hi everyone, and good morning to all of you. Welcome to the opening session of the StarBiz Summit 2021. And whether you're tuning in via Jubilia, Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, thank you very much for joining us. My name is Myra Baiti, and I am your host for this two-day live virtual conference. And guys, if you're watching this via Jubilia, do you know that the platform allows you to expand industry networks and personalize your journey thanks to its AI engagement hub? Go to the Meet tab to start building connections with other summit delegates and visit our sponsors and partners' virtual booths. You are also able to customize your agenda to watch the exact sessions that fulfill the purpose of your attendance. And talking about the agenda, why are you here? You're here to see all of our programs, and are you excited with the summit programs that we have? We'd love to hear from you, so let us know your thoughts. Where are you tuning in from, and what do you wish to take away from this summit? Please type in the chat box or in the comment section. Themed Rebuilding the Nation's Economy in the Digital Reality of 2022. The summit program is exclusively engineered by Star Media Group's events team for you to learn and discuss how to recalibrate your businesses, your business transformation journey in the age of the never normal. We highly encourage you to be a part of the conversations as we discover ways to optimize digital technologies and disruptive innovations to win 2022. In commemoration of Star Media Group's 50th anniversary, the group has ran a series of technology events under its Digital X Data umbrella, and the StarBiz Summit is the grand finale of the Digital X Data 2021 events. Star Media Group's Digital X Data 2021 kicked off with the Road to Malaysia 5.0 series that was dedicated to enabling digitally fueled Malaysian businesses to accelerate growth in the new Malaysia 5.0 digital economy, and to drive innovative change amongst the society in building a human-centered nation powered by disruptive technologies. The StarBiz Summit is the avenue for businesses and organizations to learn and discuss about the industry's outlook and market forecasts of 2022. And on day 2 of the summit, which is tomorrow, we will deep dive into 4 critical industry verticals, business areas, and organizational functions in a breakout tracks format. To realize the StarBiz Summit's vision, we are very honored and humbled with the participation of over 30 thought-leading speakers, subject gurus, industry experts, and business leaders from more than 10 countries in this 2-day power-packed program. And of course, I'd like to also take this opportunity to give a special shout out to our 19 sponsors and partners of the StarBiz Summit. The exclusive diamond sponsor CrowdStrike, the gold sponsors CyberView, Dell Technologies, and SAP. Silver sponsors ServiceNow and UiPath. Bronze sponsor Oracle. Our knowledge partners Bain & Company, Forrester, Gartner, Omdia, Oxford Business Group, and Roland Berger. And also to our supporting partners, the 30% Club Malaysia, Federation of Malaysian Manufacturers, SME Association of Australia, and SME Association of Malaysia. Our mobile messaging partner SendQuick, and our events platform partner Jubilia. Thank you all so much for coming on board with Star Media Group to make the StarBiz Summit a reality. And guys, I'm excited to also share with you that we are running a prize draw at this event. We have a total of 15 cool gadgets worth 4,000 ringgit in total to be given away. So stay with us till the end of the session to find out how you can stand a chance to win any of these exciting prizes at each of the 5 sessions of the event. And that's not all. With compliments from Oxford Business Group and our appreciation for your participation at the summit, we are rewarding you with an exclusive complimentary access to the most up-to-date Philippines economy report worth 500 British pounds. The link to access the report will be emailed to you after the event. Now, let's take a look at what we have lined up for you at this opening session of the StarBiz Summit. We will be kicking off the program with the opening keynote for World Economic Forum. It follows with a presentation by our exclusive diamond sponsor, CrowdStrike, who will be sharing with us why cybersecurity is critical for businesses to thrive and win in the age of the never normal. We will wrap up this session with our first panel discussion of the summit that will be moderated by our knowledge partner, Omdia. And the panel discussion will be joined by our esteemed guests from the Economic Planning Unit of the Malaysian Prime Minister's Department, FAVE Group, the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, and SAP Malaysia. What do you think? I hope you are as excited with the program lineup of the opening session as I am. And if you do want to learn more about the summit and the speaker profiles, check out the agenda if you are in Jubilia, or visit bit.ly/StarBiz2021. If you have any questions for our speakers, don't be shy. Please post it in the chat box or in the comment section. And if you need any assistance from us, please chat with us and our events crew, or email us at events@thestar.com.my. For any technical assistance on Jubilia, you can also email starbizsummit2021@jubilia.com. In Jubilia, remember to visit our sponsors and partners' virtual booth to find out about their latest product offerings. All right, guys, without further ado, I'd now like to invite Alex Yao, the Group Chief Executive Officer of Star Media Group, to give his welcoming address. Alex, the floor is yours.
A very good morning to our distinguished speakers, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the StarBiz Summit 2021. Thank you for tuning in and joining us as we kick off this 2-day event. This summit is the finale to the Digital X Data series organized in conjunction with Star Media Group's 50th anniversary this year. When we were planning out the activities as part of our anniversary, we knew for a fact that we wanted to run events that revolve around technology and were digitally focused. From roundtable sessions to webinars and conferences, Digital X Data is dedicated to facilitate knowledge sharing spark conversations and exchanges to ultimately accelerate economic growth through disruptive technologies. It has been a productive year as we ran 3 other Digital X Data events across the year, and this summit is set to be an exciting one. I would like to take this opportunity to express our heartfelt appreciation to all our speakers, sponsors, and partners for being a part of today's event. As the media, we are at the forefront of witnessing change, whether it is on the political, social, or economic front. Nearly 2 years since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, the world is still reeling from its aftermath, and its impact is still felt to this day. Yet, despite the predictions of doom and gloom, the unprecedented challenges accelerated many changes in the economy. It demonstrated the resilience of businesses and their aptitude for innovation to meet the new challenges. Because of that, we are in a different place today. It is crucial that we now be relentless in our efforts to continue sustaining what has been built and rebuilt, and place our economy in the position of global strength once again. Ladies and gentlemen, the StarBiz Summit 2021 overarching theme is Rebuilding the Nation Economy in the Digital Reality of 2022. Today's program is specially curated to emphasize on topic on how businesses can recalibrate their transformation journey from merely adapting and surviving to thriving in the post-pandemic age. Almost every industry has had to change their approach to the way they do things, thanks in large to ever-evolving technological advancement and the changing consumer needs and demands. It is undeniable just how our life and technology intertwine. What is most important now is how do businesses harness technology in a sustainable manner and to brace for new challenges. Over the next 2 days, we will hear from multinational business leaders, policy makers, thought leaders, and subject matter experts. These over 30 leading industry outlooks and market forecasts of 2022. This will also cover various critical industry verticals, business areas, and organizational functions. In the face of compounding global crisis that threatens development, knowledge sharing sessions such as these are important as it takes collective effort to sustain real change. This meeting of minds will allow businesses from SMEs to MNCs to be equipped with the right knowledge to navigate new waters and be inspired to take the leaps in breaking new grounds through innovative measures. I'm sure that everyone will benefit from this summit and gain valuable takeaways. Thank you once again to our esteemed speakers, sponsors, and partners for making this possible. I look forward to an incredible 2 days of the StarBiz Summit. Let's have a great sessions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex. That was indeed a very wonderful welcome address to kick off the StarBiz Summit. All right, guys, are you ready for the opening keynote of the summit? We are beyond thrilled to have the head of Asia Pacific Agenda and a member of the Executive Committee of World Economic Forum to present the summit's opening keynote. In his current role, Ju Ok Lee is in charge of the forum's institutional collaboration with governments and public sector stakeholders in the APAC region, as well as organizing the forum's flagship meeting in the region. In his keynote, you will learn about the region's challenges and opportunities for digital transformation, and also some of the insights from the forum's recently conducted survey on ASEAN's digital generation. In the second part of the keynote, Ju Ok will be joined by our very own Star Media Group's business editor for a fireside chat. Guys, please join me to welcome Ju Ok Lee of the World Economic Forum.
Good morning, selamat pagi from here in Geneva. My name is Ju Ok Lee. I'm the head of Asia Pacific for the World Economic Forum. I'd like to use this opportunity also to thank our organizers, the Star Media Group, for inviting me. I'll be sharing a very brief presentation and together with my brief thoughts on how the Fourth Industrial Revolution has evolved during the pandemic and how it can be leveraged to enable a better recovery for Malaysia and the broader region. So we're now 2 years into the pandemic, and from where I am sitting here in Geneva, Switzerland, some are actually saying that there may even be a fourth wave. So this has all been, very, very difficult for everyone to live through and to actually adapt. But I think in order to keep an eye on the light at the end of the tunnel, to focus our efforts towards rebuilding for the post-pandemic world, I think it is highly important that we try to understand what COVID-19 has induced in terms of change of mindset, in terms of behavior, and the overall societal context that we live in. As the International Organization for Public-Private Cooperation, the World Economic Forum has its headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland, and operates across 7 different offices and also 15 different centers of Fourth Industrial Revolution all over the world. But more importantly, rather than an institution, we are known as a platform. The World Economic Forum annual meeting platform that many of you are familiar with in Davos clusters has actually seen the launch of Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, more recently CEPI, the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovation back in 2017. And also, since the beginning of the pandemic, we have launched the COVID Action Platform, where we have gathered more than 1,000 leading businesses together with international organizations and governments to discuss how best to respond to this devastating pandemic and how best we can actually coordinate our efforts across sectors to recover from this devastation. We have also engaged in activities in the region where we've convened leading businesses together with governments and regional organizations. And also here in ASEAN, we have launched the Regional Action Group for ASEAN back in April in 2020. And since we have been meeting and discussing what public-private collaborations there can be and there needs to be in response to this pandemic. And all of these interactions have lent important insights, spurred important innovations and initiatives that cut across different sectors. And I think one conclusion that we've come to is that COVID-19 has really had a fundamental change in terms of the way we interact, the way we go about our businesses, and overall, the societal makeup has also significantly shifted due to the impact that the pandemic has had. I want to go a little bit deeper into one of the aspects of the changes that we've noticed, which is something that we have launched here at the World Economic Forum back in 2016, called the Fourth Industrial Revolution, characterized as fusing of the physical, digital, and biological worlds. Of course, having spent the last 18 to 24 months in an untapped environment, COVID-19 has really sort of catalyzed greater adoption and acceleration of what we call the Fourth Industrial Revolution. It's not only that there has been a wider rollout of digital transformation. I think the change in mindset that what we have experienced over the past months has really also advanced the readiness for us to embrace and be ready for what may be entailed in terms of the future of jobs. Here at the forum, we have been looking at the interconnections between the elements that define the future of jobs. And I think what we are experiencing through remote work, through remote education and collaboration, is that potential that we've been seeing before has actually come much closer due to the pandemic. It's not just been a positive change for digital transformation. We have also seen some of the fault lines that have been revealed through the impact of the pandemic, where it has become even more important to work towards an inclusive and sustainable digital future. And I'll hopefully also address some of those issues later on in this presentation. Back in 2017, the World Economic Forum, in partnership with one of the leading digital and electronic players here in ASEAN, Sea Limited, we've been running a series of surveys, mainly targeting the youth in ASEAN, to have a pulse into what they're thinking, what their aspirations are, and also given that ASEAN's digital transformation was actually one of the fastest and the most prominent in the world, we wanted to have a close view into the primary users of this online space. This year, in 2021, we have rebranded the ASEAN Youth Report into the ASEAN Digital Generation Report, further expanding the scope of responses from not just the youth, but also the broader online users. We've gathered more than 86,000 responses from across 6 different ASEAN countries. And what it does, I think, for us is really to have a reading into what people have gone through, how people have coped and adapted to the new context that was provided by the pandemic, and what kind of a role digital transformation and further adoption of digital technologies has actually done to their lives, to their livelihoods. So one thing that we've seen from the results of this year's survey is that participants of the survey really predicted they have not only seen some of the negative impact, but also positive changes that will come about, including a future with a better healthcare, a greener, and also a more digitalized future. What is important for us is that more than 85% of the respondents considered digitalization as being a key factor towards economic recovery. And this was common across all of the different countries where respondents resided in. And also, this was more apparent in some of the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises and their owners that had responded to the survey. When asked to identify some of the factors preventing further digital adoption, more than half of the respondents actually cited the lack of affordable and quality internet. There were cases complaining about some of the gaps in terms of digital skills, and also some of the funding and financing that was necessary for them to take their businesses into a more sort of digitalized environment. However, one silver lining that we've seen is that during the pandemic, there has been a significant transfer of skills between different generations. And we often cite that there is a generational divide when it comes to digital transformation. However, we have seen quite a significant teaching and learning between different generations that commonly had to experience what the pandemic has brought about. I want to talk a little bit about just in general what the role of digital transformation is and how it can be leveraged to advance societal progress. So one clear dimension is in terms of boosting competitiveness. The World Economic Forum has been known also for the Global Competitiveness Report that we launch every year. And last year, we launched a special edition that looks into how countries are performing and also how they're performing in terms of the recovery from this pandemic. And one thing that we have tried to emphasize is the role of digital technology, the role of digital adoption for many of the countries, and how it has also a positive impact towards boosting competitiveness. Hopefully, I'll be able to go into more depth in the Q&A and also in the Fireside chat as to what we mean by competitiveness and the impact of digital transformation towards competitiveness. But it is very clear that the level of business sophistication, the strength of innovation-related factors are actually becoming more and more influential in driving competitiveness and how we benchmark different countries. Digital transformation, in our view, also has a significant impact in terms of bringing countries that are neighboring or that are far away closer together. We have seen through the emphasis that are laid out in the Bandasari Begawan roadmap for ASEAN, how digital transformation is being positioned as a central initiative in a way to really realize the vision of ASEAN single market, how all the other commitments that have been made by the ASEAN member states will be advancing the digital integration and also, more importantly, the physical integration through digital connections for the ASEAN region. And one last thing I wanted to mention in terms of the positive impact of digital transformations is the purpose-driven innovation aspect. The two examples I want to share with you is one very recently in Glasgow, President Biden of the United States, through his special envoy, John Kerry, has launched together with the forum what we call the First Movers Coalition. It is a group of very large companies that have made pledges to use their purchasing power to create a market for green technologies, emission reducing technologies, and also to send a very clear market signal that there is a clear market for these innovations that are geared towards protecting our planet. The other example that I want to share with you is Uplink. So we not only work with large businesses, but also with small but very innovative startups, entrepreneurs that we have tried to crowdsource innovations from to address some of the global challenges that we have. So we have designed specific challenges, whether it's in just energy transitions or it's in marine debris reductions. All of these innovators have actually come together to submit their ideas. And we have used the Uplink platform to connect them with governments, with larger businesses that have been scouting in a way for these ideas, and also with other like-minded innovators so that they can scale up the ideas that they have and also see much greater impact. Now, bringing the attention back to Malaysia, we know that the government has recently launched the National Fourth Industrial Revolution policy that lays out the strategic directions for government policies and action plans related to emerging technologies. There are 4 different thrusts or policy focuses looking at human capital development, infrastructure improvement, and technology adoption, and so on. And these, underneath these thrusts, there are 16 different strategies and also a number of national initiatives. We highly recognize the value of these policies sort of gearing towards boosting national competitiveness. We think that the roadmap that Malaysia has laid out for itself will enhance the local capabilities and also embrace some of the environmental sustainability targets that the country has. And all in all, I think having such a blueprint enables the country, the government and businesses, then on the broader society to actually work together to fully leveraging the Fourth Industrial Revolution, not just for the country's overall progress, but also in response to some of the challenges that the pandemic has brought about. So I want to close this presentation by leaving some thoughts as to how best to leverage Fourth Industrial Revolution within the context of Malaysia as businesses and government and civil society work together towards a inclusive and sustainable recovery. So one thing that we must not lose sight on is the digital divide. As the fourth industrial revolution further evolves, there is a risk that it may leave some people behind, some sectors behind, and I think we cannot afford to lose sight of that. And one sort of clear way to try and protect and ensure that all of society benefits from this digital transformation is by investing in digital infrastructure, and also investing in the human capital development, so that all the different generations, all the different sectors equally benefit in this whole of society transformation. From the forum side, we have launched what we call the Edison Alliance, working with leading companies and also governments from the region, addressing where there is the widest gap in terms of connectivity, and to try and bring together all the stakeholders towards widening access to more than 1 billion people over the next 5 years. In addition to addressing the connectivity issue, I think we have to also focus on what kind of a market further digital transformation creates for Malaysia and for the region. And here again, I want to bring our attention back to some of the potential that further digital transformation, further digital connectivity brings towards the region. We have seen ASEAN member states come together to agree on ASEAN's e-commerce agreement. There is the also critical ASEAN single window that will hopefully act as a catalyst for the region to really realize its ambitions towards becoming a single market. And I think Malaysia has both a critical role in advancing this, as well as critical opportunities for itself in seeing a much wider and also much more integrated market within ASEAN. And finally, what I do want to emphasize is the role of public-private collaboration. Cooperative ecosystems within which governments incentivizes investments in research and development, and businesses can actually take risks by pursuing new approaches. We know that with digital transformation, there will not only be opportunities, but also risks in terms of data security, also privacy issues, and these cannot be solved with just one sector's efforts alone. So therefore, in trying to bring together stakeholders to address these complicated challenges and also fully reap the benefits of the fourth industrial revolution, the forum has launched and partnered with governments all around the world to create a network of centers for the fourth industrial revolution that look into some of the technology governance issues with these emerging technologies, and also what are opportunities for each of the governments to try and set standards and create markets in a way that these countries can actually act as a pioneer to advance across the different territories. So these are some of the recommendations, if you will, that the World Economic Forum would like to bring towards the attention for everyone. And I look forward to discussing further during the fireside chat with Jack Dev. Thank you very much.
Hey guys, I hope that you enjoyed that keynote speech by Ju Ok, but we have more for you. I'd now like to bring on the business editor of The Star for a fireside chat with Ju Ok. Jagdev Singh Sidhu has been covering various issues, events and companies under The Star for over 26 years. So, over to you, Jagdev.
Okay, thank you very much, Ju Ok. It was an enlightening presentation. I think the audience will definitely be enthralled by what you had to present, especially in the much changing world that we are in today. You've got the pandemic, which has created a lot of, I suppose, concerns, operational inefficiencies, and at the same time, opportunities. You've also created, the pandemic has also created different pace of adoption when it comes to digitalization and also gearing up for Industrial Revolution 4.0. So in all of that, I think what you have tried to say is that there's going to be differences in terms of how things progress from here. So my question would be, will the adoption of IR4 in the aftermath of COVID-19 widen the divide between rich and poor countries? Because the pandemic has created much chaos. So will the adoption of IR4 widen a divide that's already seeing a rift parting in both different directions?
Thank you very much, Jagdeep, for having me, and also it's great to have this discussion with you. I think to your question, unfortunately, the answer is yes. I mean, from what we are seeing, not just in digital transformation, but throughout the pandemic, how income gaps, how the wealth gap between countries and within countries have affected response and recovery efforts. We are unfortunately seeing the risk of a widening gap, especially as digital transformation further rolls out. But that's also the reason why we need to really emphasize the inclusion aspect as we go towards further digital adoption, as we look towards further rollout and navigation of within the fourth industrial revolution. Because if there's one thing that we've learned from the pandemic, it's that unless the whole of society is actually part of this joint response and joint transformation, we are going to see much sort of greater impact in the aftermath. And it's not just from a pandemic response, but also in terms of reaping some of the benefits that digital transformation will bring. In the report that I earlier cited, the ASEAN's Digital Generation Report, we have noticed something that we have later called a flywheel effect. So the more digitalized you are and more parts of your businesses that are digitalized, you will actually be more keen to further digitalize and also invest more in terms of greater digital adoption. What that means also in converse is that if you do not have the initial motivation or the initial tools to really embrace this digital transformation, then you will be left out. And I think all the indicators that we have seen in terms of the positive impact towards resilience, the minimizing of economic impact for those that are digitalized in terms of their business operations, we do not want this further digital transformation wave to create winners and losers, and for societies to actually see that gap widening. So I think we need to work extra hard. It is very difficult. One of the negative legacies from the pandemic is that we have seen less cooperation between countries, or not more. So we have challenges ahead of us, but we know what the consequences will be unless we work more closely together between the global north and south, between developing and developed countries, and that's the future that we have to work towards.
All right. I like the point you made on inclusiveness, but which brings me to the next question. And given that there's a great need for countries and policymakers to embrace inclusiveness, how can countries in ASEAN capitalize on making the leap in Industrial Revolution 4.0 when there are gaps in terms of human capital and also funding requirements? I think when you start to look at the skill level of human capital at different parts of the world, it varies significantly. And also the funding that is required to embrace and equip companies and governments towards the digital world is also going to be another impediment, given the cost that has been spent in terms of combating the pandemic.
You're absolutely right. I think we are not seeing a complete level playing field, not just between ASEAN and the rest of the world, but also even within ASEAN. And there is considerable work that has to be done to ensure that the basic foundations are laid for further digital transformation and fourth industrial revolution to really take effect. But that's also the reason why we are really emphasizing the importance of public-private collaboration. I think there is a clear role that governments have to play, whether it's in investing in infrastructure, laying out the right policies, but also there is a space where private sector can really play an important role in terms of unleashing the entrepreneurial spirit to conduct experiments and positive transformations that the private sector can have towards these sectors. But the two sectors must really work together. And another important thing that that allows for greater public-private collaboration to bridge these gaps is making the goal very, very clear. What the opportunities are for ASEAN, for individual countries within the region, if there is a further rollout of digital transformation, if the region fully embraces the fourth industrial revolution, what kind of benefits can the region look forward to? I think that's also one of the key aspects of further injecting enthusiasm and also attracting foreign investments towards the region. I think so far ASEAN has really successfully embraced the fourth industrial revolution. ASEAN's digital economy, I think, is second to none in terms of the rate of growth. But I think we can do better in terms of getting that message out that ASEAN really has a very bright potential towards the end of this fourth industrial revolution drive. And I think that's one of the answers towards closing that gap that currently ASEAN sees for itself.
Right. But the thing is, we all know that we are experiencing the pace and adoption of digitalization in one way or the other. I think for older people like me, we've never really made purchases online. That's quite commonplace these days. And I think even governments have rolled out all sorts of e-commerce or digitalized services in order to have less contact and with the populace at large, and to prevent the spread of a pandemic. We're still trying to get under control. But the thing now is that there's an urgent need for the fourth industrial revolution, because it's going to create untold benefits given what we have seen from the previous three. And how much will the digitalization and IR4 influence countries' competitiveness going forward? Because in the end, it's all about how competitive you are against your peers, and how can digitalization help towards improving the competitiveness of countries, especially in Southeast Asia.
Thank you, Jack, for that question. So one sort of perspective that I can share is based on the forum's Global Competitiveness Report and the Global Competitiveness Index. The index itself has a very long history, but it's also not a very static model. We have continuously evolved how we measure competitiveness, and also in terms of adding new components, dimensions, and adjusting the weight of how these different dimensions impact one another. Most recently, even before the pandemic, we've significantly increased the emphasis on digital tools, digital competencies, and how they impact a country's competitiveness. And the reason why is because there are both direct ways and also indirect ways in how a country adopts digital transformation will later impact its competitiveness. I mean, the direct ways, of course, are through the quality of infrastructure, the scale of innovation that you see within a country, and how that's also impacting other businesses as well. But also indirectly, the more a country is advanced in terms of digital adoption, typically you see much more sort of transparency, confidence, and trust into its institutions. And all of these factors, I think, are critical towards advancing one's competitiveness. So we will see a much stronger emphasis of the impact of fourth industrial revolution, the impact of how a country embraces and plans towards embracing fourth industrial revolution, and how countries are measured against one another in terms of the benchmark. So that is also one of the many different reasons why governments, private sector should work towards greater adoption and also a more inclusive and sustainable adoption of fourth industrial revolution. But we are clearly seeing that the signals are there. The causality, I think, between one another is certainly there as well. And we will see even more of an emphasis as we go along.
All right, which brings me to the next question I have, which you touched on the role of government and private sector in terms of adopting digitalization and fourth industrial revolution. But there was a pace that they were going on prior to the pandemic, and now that the pandemic has hit, the pace of adoption is going to be affected and change. And I would tend to think it's going to be slightly more sluggish than what it used to be. How can companies and governments, policymakers and boardrooms overcome these challenges going forward? And how urgent is it for them to do so in a very timely and fast manner?
We actually have, as an international organization that really specifies in terms of public-private collaboration, the interaction between sectors, what we've noticed during the pandemic is this drastic change in terms of the role of governments, the role of state, with massive injections of funds into COVID recovery and response. I think it has also fundamentally changed how government and other sectors work together. After the pandemic, especially when it comes to digital transformation, I think this is one area in which public-private collaboration needs to also evolve considerably. In the past, we have seen the sort of typical relationship where governments try to define the problem and also the solution, and then retrospectively invite private sector to either adopt some of the solutions that they have devised for them, or in some cases, asked to take on some of the burden sharing, whether it's in initial investments or in terms of sort of rollout of some of these initiatives. I think private sector has as much of a responsibility in terms of the solution, but also in devising some of the assessment of the problem as well. Because the fourth industrial revolution, as it evolves, will impact not just a very small sector, but a wider sector of society, and also the challenges that will come about will be much more complicated for any one sector to deal with alone. So we are actively encouraging that private sector also take a seat at the table when governments determine how a nation will rebuild, especially when it comes to adoption of digital transformations, digital technologies, and therefore also take on more responsibility in terms of how it's rolled out. One sort of example that we can give you in terms of what I've also shared earlier in the presentation is the Edison Alliance. It's not just governments and international financial institutions pledging investment for expanding access. I think the way that we're trying to approach is what are the clear value chains that are involved in enhancing digital connectivity across those critical areas, whether it's healthcare, education, and really seeing who are the players that are involved and who can benefit from further expansion of digital connectivity in those areas. I think we can come up with much more creative and also effective solutions. So that's one model in which we think public-private collaboration should evolve in the post-pandemic world. And hopefully that can also have a positive impact towards other sectors and other initiatives as well.
Okay, thank you very much, York, for your insight on a very compelling topic for governments and companies going forward from here. Everybody knows the need to embrace change. The question is, how are we going to attain it, and how are you going to deal with it? We look forward. I mean, your insights have been quite valuable towards understanding some of the issues at hand, and I do look forward to following what more that you can have and shed light in terms of what people need to do moving forward from here. Thank you very much, Jock, for your time.
Thank you, Jagdev. It was a pleasure.
Hey guys, I hope you have enjoyed the opening keynote. Thank you so much, Juop, for the insightful sharing. And also thank you, Jagdev, for moderating the Fireside chat with Juop. That was just the beginning of a power-packed 2-day program of the StarBiz Summit. And we are going to move on to the next session. This next presentation is brought to you by the Summit's exclusive diamond sponsor, CrowdStrike. In this session, you will learn why cybersecurity is a critical priority for businesses to thrive and win in the age of the never normal. Fabio Frattucello, the speaker of this session, is a technology and security guru with 25 years of international experience working for private companies and large multinationals in a variety of management, technical, and advisory roles. In his current role with CrowdStrike, Fabio is also responsible for developing and executing CrowdStrike's regional technology roadmap and helping customers develop cyber defense strategies, managing their cyber risks, and achieving success in their cyber journey. Guys, here is Fabio Frattucello, Chief Technology Officer of CrowdStrike's Asia Pacific and Japan.
We make history. Every day, 2.5 quintillion bytes. We draw from our instincts, creating moments that tell the world that this is who we are, who we've always been. We adapt to decide close calls, a breakthrough that takes a nanosecond to experience and a generation to manifest. This is our collective history. Together, it's ours to protect. For new histories to be written, new records shattered, new legacies forged. That's the power of we. CrowdStrike. We stop breaches.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Fabio Frattucello, and I'm the Chief Technology Officer for the APJ region at CrowdStrike, where I do work on technology strategy. My background is in cyber defense strategy and specifically in the detection and response domain, where I spent my last 25 years working on some of the largest financial organizations around the globe. But for today, I'm not going to focus on the more gloom and doom side of security, nor I'm going to go into very technical details, because today I'll be focusing on thriving and winning in the age of the never normal. And so in today's session, I'll be looking at discussing what are the challenges that security leaders are faced with when try elevating security as a business priority and as an enabler. What does true security transformation mean? And how do we start with a security-first approach to thrive and win in the age of the never normal? So let's get started. Let's start from the challenges and how security is currently perceived. The reality of today's modern society is that complexity in the enterprise keeps on increasing. The external environment is changing at speed, with some of the external forces exerting pressure on organizations and security leaders. And so we will be exploring some of the dependencies between the external landscape and the internal challenges, and what are the opportunities to drive a security transformation. Let's start from the external challenges. And I want to start with the threat landscape. You probably heard this before. The threat landscape is escalating, becoming more sophisticated. Cyber attacks are becoming more complex and disruptive. And threat actors are evolving their techniques. And we need to find a way to stop and deal with it from a cyber defensive standpoint. The second challenge is around enterprise networks. They're becoming bigger and they're becoming more complex. And now this was true even before the pandemic. If we just think a couple of years ago, probably many organizations would have already started a cloud journey where we were moving workloads from on-prem into the cloud. And maybe you already started a workforce transformation where instead of having your people, your teams working into the office, they were working from home. But we all know what happened as part of the pandemic and how this pandemic has accelerated the digital transformation around cloud and remote capability. And so today, it's not uncommon to come up with organizations that have a cloud and remote first strategy that is very well aligned and defined to their business objective and to their technology direction. The last point is around vulnerabilities. Now, if you are a security professional, you're probably aware that vulnerabilities has been a challenge for quite some time. In this vulnerability management space, security professional has been used to having to deal with a monthly patching cycle where vulnerabilities are identified and remediated on a monthly basis. But as we progress, critical vulnerabilities are getting discovered more often and are impacting the core technology stack of the organization. And so these vulnerabilities are now getting discovered every week, maybe more often. And so depending on your organization, your industry, you might have to deal with vulnerabilities on a daily basis. Now, let's look at the internal challenges. The first one is around security, which too often is an afterthought and it is underfunded. And I mentioned before, organizations are operating in an environment where the threat landscape is continuously escalating, threat groups are innovating and looking at advancing their offensive capabilities. Organizations that do not provide their security functions with appropriate funding become ineffective very quickly as the threat landscape evolves. And security leaders, we need to be able to establish trust and relationship at the appropriate level. And we need to be able to get the right attention to the real issue that we want to get tackled. And I personally think that as an industry, we've made some progress in raising awareness, but there is more that we need and have to do. This year in 2021, the World Economic Forum, through their Global Risk Report, has highlighted cyber risk as a global risk. Let's reflect on this for a moment. How many security leaders are having regular conversation with their boards on cyber risks and how these risks may impact the business? And so it's really important that as security leaders of tomorrow, we're able to elevate the conversation and make sure cybersecurity is a regular topic for discussion at the board level. The second challenge is what I call the external control. Security has been historically seen or implemented as an external security control. And rather than working together with the business and baking security early on, the external control approach has caused security teams to be seen as adding frictions, adding delays, and becoming the no department to business ideas. Now, this issue has been aggravated by the quality of legacy security products, which were designed to be reactive to threats. These legacy products not only fail to deliver on the promise of protecting organizations, but has also introduced further complexity and unnecessary load on the compute, which ultimately has created additional overhead to the user. And because of this, security products has been historically the target of criticism by the end users, feeling security was preventing them from doing their job. And a great example of this would be, you probably recall, the bad experience with legacy AV software. They were taking a significant amount of time, system resources, creating painful log system boot times, and sometimes they brought down the entire system during intensive AV scanning. Now, the third challenge is around finding the right balance between being reactive versus being strategic. And we know threat actors are embracing new technology, they're innovating at scale, but they're also doing this at a very fast pace. And because of that, security leaders are required to operate with a similar tempo and have to place significant focus on detecting, preventing, and responding to threats. There is a lot of operational effort that is reactive by its nature. However, leaders that want to be successful are also required to ensure security is thought from a strategic perspective. And so instead of asking, how do we not get breached, they should be asking, how do we address security long term? And while the operational and reactive aspect cannot be ignored, security professionals could do more to align security with the rest of the business. Because ultimately, this will lead to have security as a key element enabling business operation rather than being just a cost. So, we spoke about the cyber environment and how organizations are operating. We've also talked about what challenges security leaders have faced and some of the historical reasons for those challenges. Now, let's shift gear and discuss how can the perception of security be changed and what is needed to drive a positive security transformation within the organization. And I tried to summarize this concept with just one slide and with a few words. And to me, this is all about elevating security as a business priority. Now, I want to share a couple of themes on security transformation. And of course, by no means, this is not a complete list. I believe there are likely to be several other themes that you can use to drive a positive security transformation. And I encourage you to do so. As security leaders, you are in the best position to know what is of relevance for your own organization, which should be based on your risk profile and based on where you are in your cyber journey. But there's a reason why I've selected these two themes. And the reason is because these two themes are likely to be applicable to a very large number of organizations. And so these two themes are enabling a remote workforce and DevSecOps. Let's start with the first one. We spoke before about organizations becoming bigger and more complex, but also becoming cloud and remote first. And as part of this transformation, security now has the opportunity to be a business enabler and facilitate the transition of the remote workforce. This transformation is about rapidly shifting the workforce from working into the office, which in security terms we call from inside the perimeter, to working from anywhere at any time. And if we want to be successful in enabling such shift, the security approach has to change from focusing on traditional on-premise perimeter security controls to what is a more modern cloud-native approach. Let's think about it. The perimeter is no longer there. So the controls that were established at this layer are now less relevant and are partially effective. And so because of this, there has to be a heavy reliance on protecting the identity and apply concepts like zero trust to close the new gaps. We've also previously discussed around how security may have a reputation as an inhibitor due to a negative trade-off associated with older technologies or older techniques. And so today's security transformation can take advantage of the more modern approaches that provide enhanced security benefit without many of the previous inhibitors. Now, the second one, DevSecOps. DevSecOps, in my opinion, is another area where there is a tremendous opportunity to change perception on security. This is about the adoption of IT and development practice that integrate security into their design as a core foundational requirement, rather than being added in as an afterthought, as we said before. And so this is about baking in security from the start of every business initiatives. With this transformation, there is an opportunity to create or enhance relationship between the security teams and the products and the business teams. This transformation may allow security leaders to be seen as enabling business to reduce risk and deliver new initiative without the concern of having potential breaches down the road, which is very powerful. The early security is integrated into the development cycle, the better. We also spoke before about the vulnerability problem. Having systems up and running in production with vulnerabilities that, when exploited, can cripple your organization. And with DevSecOps, by baking security early on, we now have the opportunity to assess if those workloads are affected by vulnerabilities before they are deployed into production. And so security products can finally be seen as essential enablers of business agility and working together with the development, with the operation practice at their velocity, creating what is called DevSecOps. Now, I'm getting close to the end of my presentation. Let's talk about the security first approach. And I want to share some of the practical tips to start on this journey. And so what are some of the tips around how to start a security first? 3 on the screen. Shifting thinking from security as a cost to a saving. Integrate security practice from the beginning. And lastly, enable the business instead of crippling the user. Let's talk a little bit more about those. The first one is around the shifting thinking from security as a cost to a saving. And the saving could be in form of reduced downtime. It could be around decreasing business interruption, or it could be around enabling long-term protection for the brands and the customer relationships. And so when we articulate saving concepts, it's important that we use the language that resonates well and it is familiar with non-security people. And so I had the pleasure and opportunity to speak with a number of customers in Malaysia and across the region. And what I've noticed is that successful leaders tend to shift the conversation around maturity levels, for example. They talk about what are the targets and what we need to reach to provide the relevant long-term protection to brands and customers. They talk around how we're going to get there. What is the journey? What is the program of work that needs to be funded and required to reach the destination? Those leaders tend to talk about metrics. What is worth measuring and how we're going to measure it. And so it's very important that we understand if we do have security controls or security products that can provide us with the relevant information that we can use to drive objective and meaningful conversation. Remember, what are we going to measure and how we're going to measure it? Those leaders, they also tend to talk about return on investment. And this is more than provide confidence that security funding has been well spent. This is also around demonstrating how through a pragmatic approach to security, we can empower the business to be successful. Let's talk about the second one. Integrate security practice from the beginning. Through the presentation, we talked a little bit about this already. And it is much cheaper and easier to integrate security practice from the beginning rather than a later stage as an afterthought. And a great example to illustrate this point is ransomware. I'm fairly confident many of you are familiar with the term and know what ransomware is. And again, when I often spoken to clients on the ransomware theme, and I often get asked, what is the best strategy against ransomware? And my answer is always the same, which is the best strategy against ransomware is doing the required security work upfront, so there is no ransomware event to handle. Preventing a ransomware from impacting an organization is always cheaper than having to deal with a security incident that has crippled the organization. And so through this approach, not only there are great opportunities to decrease security and IT costs due to their early analysis and integration, but as a byproduct, there is often an opportunity to accelerate IT and digital experimentation and the overall delivery of capabilities to market. And so many organizations, particularly the ones that are operating in our cloud-first organization, they're operating in the cloud environment, are really capitalizing on this approach. So I encouraging, and it's worth reaching out to understand some of the best practices in this space. And lastly, as a security leader, you should always ensure that security recommendations don't cripple day-to-day life of the end user, and also don't add too much friction to the business. Now, security at heart is a risk reduction capability. Security exists to address risks that are outside the organization risk appetite. But at the same time, security also enables and has to accelerate the business when the business is operating within the appropriate guardrails. And so if we look at an example, in the prevention, detection, and response space, it's critical to have a security capability that can proactively stop breaches, but at the same time, does not cripple the user with too much overhead. Now remember, good security solution today should be invisible to the end user, and yet they should still providing you with all the actionable information that you need so that your security organization can be effective. Also, let's keep in mind then when we think about enabling the business, and we've discussed this before to an extent when we were talking about being reactive versus being proactive, we need to be critical with our thinking, and particularly around how we're going to enable the business both today and tomorrow. And so it is very important that when we select products or capability, that those fits well with the current technology ecosystem. But more important, if you want to be a successful security leader, if you want to be a business enabler, you need to make sure what you are selecting is going to fit well and be complementary to your organization's future business strategy and technology direction. Now, this brings me to the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed the session, and I hope it has provided you with some useful insight around the external challenges, the barriers that security leaders may need to overcome internally. But also, more importantly, I hope that you can take some of these tips to start with the security first approach, because I want you to thrive and win in the age of the never normal. I would love to hear your thought on the topics, so please feel free to connect and reach out to me. My LinkedIn and Twitter details are on the screen. Thanks again for your time. Stay safe and see you next time.
We make history. Every day, 2.5 quintillion bytes. We draw from our instincts, creating moments that tell the world that this is who we are, who we've always been. We adapt to decide close calls, a breakthrough that takes a nanosecond to experience and a generation to manifest. This is our collective history. Together, it's ours to protect. For new histories to be written, new records shattered, new legacies forged. That's the power of we. CrowdStrike. We stop breaches.
Hi guys, I'm back and I hope you found that Fabio's presentation earlier was informative enough to assist you in re-strategizing your cybersecurity roadmap in 2022 and beyond. Thank you so much, Fabio, for such an insightful sharing session. Guys, the recent pandemic has forever impacted the role of technology in our personal lives, businesses, and in the ways that governments interact with citizens. Yet, we have just scratched the surface of what might be possible in rebuilding the nation's economy in the digital reality of 2022. In the panel discussion coming up next, we will discuss how businesses can embrace the endemic phase to accelerate business growth, positively impact society, and build a human-centered nation, all powered by disruptive technologies. Hear and learn from knowledgeable and influential panelists on how we might drive innovative change in Malaysia and in the broader Southeast Asian region. Our first distinguished guest of the Power Panel is Yang Berbahagia Datuk Dr. Suhana Muhammad Saleh, who is the Director of the K Economy Division for the Economic Planning Unit under the Malaysian Prime Minister's Department. Among others, in her current role, Datuk Dr. Suhana oversees the development and growth of the ICT sector, digital economy, and government delivery systems. Datuk Dr. Suhana was also responsible for the preparation of 2 chapters in the 12th Malaysia Plan and the Malaysia Digital Economy Blueprint. Our second guest at this panel discussion is Yeo Chen Chow, or also known as CC. CC is the co-founder of Fave Group, a next-gen fintech loyalty platform in Southeast Asia. And it was acquired by Pine Labs in a deal valued at $45 million. Our third guest is Dr. Alexander Boomer, the head of the South and Southeast Asia in the Global Relations Secretariat of the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, or in short, OECD. Before joining OECD in 2003, Dr. Boomer was the Director of Sector with the Federation of German Industries in Berlin and was previously working in the Federal Ministry of Economy as well as the EU Commission's Directorate General for Trade. And our fourth guest is Casey Hong, who is the Managing Director of SAP Malaysia. Amongst others, Casey is also responsible in leading the acceleration of SAP Malaysia's recognition as the experience company powered by the intelligent enterprise. Casey has more than 25 years of experience across notable technology companies. He also has 15 solid years of senior management leadership in country and in regional capacities. Last but not least, our guest who is moderating the panel discussion is Adam Etherington, who is a principal analyst and part of Omdia's digital enterprise services practice. Adam spent more than 2 decades at some of the world's largest telecoms and IT service vendors. He is also responsible and so passionate about bringing clear insights to help enterprises and service providers understand and leverage business outcomes enabled by information technology. We cannot ask for a more powerful lineup of speakers to kick off our first industry panel discussion of the StarBiz Summit than this. And if you have any questions for the panel, please do not be shy. Please post it in the chat box or in the comment section. All right, Adam, I'm sure the audience is very eager to hear and learn from the panel, so take it away when you are ready.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here today and moderating this session. When I was putting together the agenda and looking at who we had in the panel, I became really excited. I think it's a pivotal time for us, all professionals in different industries, when we consider the role of technology and what it can play. And we have such an amazing lineup today in this Power Panel session. Now, let me give you a flight plan for what we're going to cover today. So the first thing is I'm going to ask each of the panelists to give a brief introduction. Although the MC introduction was fantastic, I want to give them a chance to talk about what they like and what they're focusing on at the moment. The next, we're going to look at the past 18 months. Now, I want to reflect and ask each of our panelists to reflect on the experiences and some of the insights and lessons that have come out of such unusual times. Then we'll move to where are we right now? And so I'll ask the panelists to talk about their experiences and what they're focusing on at the moment. And then for all those who are joining, I have no doubt that you're thinking about future plans. You're thinking about where you're going to take your organizations next. What's next in the horizon? And so I'm going to ask the panelists to share their insights and their expertise on what you might want to consider next. So firstly, I'm going to ask each of the panelists just to briefly introduce themselves. Suhana, please tell us a little more about you and what you do.
Okay, thank you, Adam, for the introduction. Honorable panelists and participants of the StarBiz Summit. A bit about myself. I've been with EPU since 1995, and now I'm tasked to oversee the development and growth of the ICT sector, digital economy, and government service delivery. In line with the StarBiz Summit, I'd like to share Malaysia's aspiration to advance transition and transform into a digitally driven, high-income nation and a regional leader in digital economy. That's the vision of the government. And today I'd like to share those visions with all of you. Thank you.
Fantastic. And Alex, welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. This is Alexander Böhmer. I'm heading the Southeast Asia regional program in the OECD in Paris, and we're currently focusing very much how can we support best governments in the region on the digital transformation, on, of course, the recovery from the COVID crisis, the economic recovery, on international tax issues, and also on the other big transition, which is climate energy transition to a more climate-friendly way of production and managing our economies. I'm very pleased to be here and looking very much forward to a dynamic discussion here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Excellent. Thank you. Welcome. KC. KC, just need to unmute virtual meetings.
Sorry.
Here we
Thank
go.
you.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Sorry about it. Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be part of the panelists and helping and be able to explain our vision and our transformation. SAP, what we do, we provide business applications to enterprise or SMEs. And it's our vision to be able to help every business transformation into becoming a best run intelligent enterprise, particularly with cloud technologies. Cloud first is what we do, and our business is really to accelerate the customer's digital transformation. And I'm glad to be here. Thank you, Adam.
Oh, welcome, welcome. And CC.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Being a Gen Y here and an entrepreneur, I think that we are a small player trying to build up in this space. So I'm from Faith Group. So we got acquired by Pine Labs earlier this year. And I think right now we are serving about 40,000 businesses in the offline space, entering into online space as well in Southeast Asia. And we just embark on our journey to bring this brand to India as well. Looking forward to engage with everyone.
Excellent. And welcome all. Fantastic panel. So let me get us started into the first section, and we'll think about the past 18 months. Such a big period of disruption and change for so many of us in so many different ways. Now, the COVID pandemic, it's been talked about a lot, and there's no shortage of material out there on some of the impacts and the difficulties that we've faced. Now, the movement control order was necessary, and we wanted to stem the tide of transmission of the virus. And at the same time, what I see as an analyst is there's been a significant uptick in the use of digital technologies across governments and by citizens, myself as a consumer, as a family member, as a father, and in workplaces as well. Technology has enabled us to do things that were just almost science fiction a couple of decades ago. And what I notice is that things like cloud computing, which you mentioned, KC, artificial intelligence, big data, IoT, high-speed bandwidth from 5G or fiber connectivity and broadband, and making that more accessible has driven transformation. And I think we're only at the cusp of what's possible. So let's talk about where we've been the last 18 months. And Alex, I'm going to start with you. So in your experience at the OECD, looking at Southeast Asia, you've got a fantastic perspective on the region. Can you share with us what are some of the biggest shifts and changes that you've seen?
Yeah, thanks so much, Adam. Well, you know, the major big shift, of course, was the disruption to the fantastic growth narrative of the region. You know, a region which has previously been growing at 6-7% annually on average, which has close to 650 million people. It's the world's third largest labor force and the main driver of global growth. And 2020 saw a contraction of up to -4%, and the downward revised assumption for 21 after the recent Delta wave, unfortunately, is something like plus 3.1%. So it looked better at the beginning of the year with predictions of 5% GDP growth for this year. And hopefully then a stronger uptake of 5% on average GDP growth in 22. Southeast Asian governments in particular, and congratulations for this, have brilliantly managed to contain the first wave of COVID in 2020. And by early summer last year, there were already There were already relaxing of restrictive measures and the prevention of a second wave of the pandemic. And just back this spring, most ASEAN countries were optimistic to get economics actually back on track. But then unfortunately, starting in June, the Delta variant spread and lockdowns hit the economy even harder. And even who had the pandemic well under control, like Thailand and Vietnam, Malaysia, 2020. And now, of course, the region is facing serious economic challenges as infections and containment measures are affecting businesses also in a more profound way. And that led to this downward revision of GDP growth. So that's a challenge for companies, of course, now also. We also see that the crisis showed, larger issues. The large informal sector didn't show as very resilient to these kind of shocks. A lot of informal workers lost their livelihoods. So upskilling and education are key issues going forward, and I think come to. But experts say that, although this is ASEAN has faced an Asian financial crisis 23 years ago, there's also a lot of good news. And countries are much better off now than they were back then. So first of all, governments are better prepared, financial systems are more robust, there is no excessive debt load. All ASEAN countries enacted quickly macro stability programs and business support schemes. Another bright spot is trade, actually. Increased demand from OECD countries and China. As of June 21, for example, exports had exceeded pre-pandemic levels and become more diverse. And that's really interesting. Also, the ASEAN Investment Review expects 2021 to be the record year in history for FDI, foreign direct investment attraction to the region. A lot of good news, also robust flows of remittances again. And yes, while international tourism is yet to return, of course, to pre-pandemic levels, some countries have started to gradually reopen their borders, and there are already many schemes in place. And now, of course, is a chance to speed up the digital transformation of ASEAN industries, not only heavily reliance on labor-intensive manufacturing and foreign labor, but also to introduce more artificial intelligence and automation and production processes, and really use the pandemic as a catalyst for greater economic transformation and move to what we call Industry 4.0 in the region. So I'd say a massive disruption, Adam, but we see the glasses at least half full in the region. So,
yeah, thank you, Alex. And I like that balanced optimism. That's what I'm going to call it. Yeah. Or considered optimism. And I think it's interesting that some of the changes you've talked about there, and that there are some change, the macroeconomic policies and the role of technology means that we are in a better position now than if something like this had happened 10, 15 years ago, or certainly back when the last crisis hit, which was not health directed, but it was financially directed based on some weaknesses in systems, financial systems. So I'm going to turn next to Suhana. So given your role as the director of the K Economy Division, can I invite your perspective on the past 18 months and the role of the digital economy during the pandemic?
Okay, thank you, Adam. I do agree with what Alex says. Those are the macroeconomics, and those are also the issues and the challenges that we already take into account and in preparation of the 12th Measure Plan. As we know that the past 18 years has been challenging and difficult. I think for some the impact is more severely, but for others it's less. But everybody felt the impact. From the government perspective, in a way, the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the wave of change for the people, businesses, and government. In a strong way to adapt and adopt the digitalization. We started with the ICT development, all that in 1996, but in the past 2 years, you can see the big growth in digitalization. There's a need to fully embrace technology across economic sectors as a response to the disruption caused by the pandemic. In terms of to this, in the private sector, we can see that many businesses have changed. There's a need for businesses to change their business models and adopt digitalization in order to stay competitive, as well as to ensure they are resilient as demand and supply are disrupted. New ways of working are inevitable for businesses to survive the global crisis. And society, like Adam said just now, we have to transition ourselves from the conventional lifestyle to the online, activities. We purchase online in terms of office work, working from home, and also education for the children. And the COVID-19 also amplifies the importance of the digital economy. You can see the growth of the digital economy to ensure continuity in economic activities. And study shows that firms that have adopted digitalization is less impacted. There's a OECD study we did earlier this year. I think Alex, you know about that. And we can see that a lot of even big firms did not adopt digitalization. So, but because of the COVID-19, they have to start. But the smaller the micros companies are, that they are less inclined to digitalization. But I think moving forward, everybody have to adopt digitalization. And this shift towards digitalization is not only about rolling out solutions to mitigate the negative impacts, but also as an enabler for Malaysia to bounce back post-COVID. The important thing is next year is kind of, I hope, post-COVID era. So we need to have, kind of very, quite a lot of things need to happen to bounce back the economy. As the world is increasingly digital, as you all know, and countries are leveraging on digital economy to increase growth, which we estimated that about 12.3 trillion contribution of DE to the GDP. It is a big market out there, and that countries around the world has already tapping into the opportunities. So this is timely for Malaysia, and that is why the government is also focusing on this. And the digital economy also played a vital role in lessening the impact of the pandemics and to the economy. And in terms of when there's a change in consumer behavior, we feel that there is a lot of changes that are going to happen in the future across all sectors, all the 5 sectors. And I said just now, we hope that the adoption of the technology will help to expedite the short-term economic recovery and boosting long-term economic resilience. However, the digital adoption that we notice is still low. Although we have some programs for the micro SMEs, but we noticed that it's not easy for them to go on board. There are quite a lot of things that we need to do to help them. And I think recently we have a program to empower the MSMEs. And there's also companies that reach out to go beyond in terms of trade, in terms of exports. And we thought that the large companies, I know they have already in advance, but there are also other things that they also request the government support. While I think while most SMEs is already embarked on technology, but a study showed that the usage of other ICT technologies among the MSMEs is still low. So basically, they are still using lower end, technology, not the higher up. And we also noticed that digital skills shortage. There's a lot of it, and then we need to upskill and reskill the labor force. And also, not only that, I think as we move to enhance, to focus more on solution, to giving out solution services, there's a need for us to create more experts, professionals in this field. To sum up, I think in realizing the importance of the digital economy, the government has launched the Malaysia government Malaysia Digital Economy Blueprint, as well as the Fourth Industrial Revolution Policy early this year. And these 2 documents will provide the policy direction, strategy, initiatives towards achieving the vision for Malaysia to become the regional leader in the digital economy and achieve inclusive, responsible, and sustainable socio-economic development. We noticed that when we started last year, we don't know where we are, the readiness for Malaysia and all that. But now, I think after 1.5 years, we can see there's a big buzz, and everybody kind of already have some idea or already adopt some of the strategies. So I think basically that wraps up my perspective, the government perspective of the past 18 months. Back to you, Adam. Thank you.
Thank you, Suhana. And there was a lot in there, and we can unpack some of that in different sections of the panel today. One of the things I want to pick up on, you talked about SMEs and small and medium-sized organizations and adopting technology. And one of the things that I've noticed as an analyst is the proliferation and the growth of cloud computing means that there's now greater accessibility for smaller businesses, that they can get access to capabilities, technology capabilities through cloud that were not previously accessible. And sometimes the challenges are, how do they use the technology? How do they adopt it? And that's where the skills come in. Now, at this point, I'd like to invite KC. So I know that SAP do a lot of work with organizations, including SMEs, and helping them in these types of situations and circumstances. So what are your observations on the past 18 months? And I'm going to ask you a question from 2 points of view, KC. The first is, because you're an MD, you're a director of a large organization, what have you noticed from that perspective? And then secondly, with your SAP hat on, what have you noticed in the work that you've done with clients and how you've supported them in the past 18 months?
Yeah, thank you, Adam. I echoed what Dr. Suhana and also Alex said. And I know a lot of people are struggling or suffering because of the COVID-19 pandemic situation, but there are also new opportunities. It's not all opportunities, but more of the new ones. So this pandemic, in a way, from an SAP standpoint, accelerated the digital transformation trends, especially for SMEs. In a way, the SMEs has also needs to redesign their business plans and processes. It demands new technologies and at the same time be able to unlock new ways of running your business. And at the same time, it's important that we need to stay ahead of your industry. For true business transformation in the never normal, companies must be able to focus on 3 themes. The first is about people. And I think for SME, it's clear that the pre-pandemic employee experiences will never come back again. Whether your employees are working remotely, on-site, or even within a combination of both, delivering the experiences that keep your people engaged is critically important. Organizations are already heading in the direction of a hybrid workplace model, where creating a workplace that allows everyone to collaborate, focus, learn, and socialize and grow is a key for business success. SAP is no different. SAP Malaysia is also heading towards a hybrid workplace, and we are experiencing the same thing. And secondly, it's about process. Process is about leveling up your business efficiency. Performance are two critical strategies that organizations are adopting for staying competitive in today's increased market volatility and disruption. For most business, this means delivering modern, data-driven processes that goes beyond just adding custom functions or tweaking screens within existing business applications. Companies like SMEs must be able to also design, benchmark, improve, and transform business processes across their SME enterprise and be able to support new capabilities or even business models. At the same time, be able to deliver their goals, which requires innovative solutions. And some of this requires adding new intelligent capabilities and workflows that address evolving needs and bring new vision. At SAP, we are using an interesting solution called SignaView, which be able to gain a 360 degrees view of every business process, and we can probably better understand the processes, be able to identify improvements, and be able to simplify operations. Essentially, we are connecting the process journey with the customer journey, which really makes it easier for customers to be able to collaborate and do business with SAP. Third is about platform. We are seeing increased discussions on big data, like you mentioned, AI, IoT, machine learning, digital twins, at the same time RPA, which you call in short for robotic process automation. Data platforms and analytics come together to meet the surge of demand of these digital technologies driven by market uncertainty over the past year. Businesses are turning to integrated ERP platforms that can handle all organizations' data and analytic needs across multiple applications, areas of business, and across cloud and hybrid environments and third party. Malaysia companies, like what we all said, are pivoting to remote work environments by leveraging digital technologies, especially the cloud. A good example of which I want to share is about Baba's group of companies, which is, I think everybody know their household name for spice mixtures. I love their curries, fantastic curries, but So I think one of the things they're doing is that when they were working on working remotely, the policy was first set up or mandated like every other organization. Babas had to adapt to new ways of working. Their immediate focus was to put people first, ensuring their health and safety, and be able to provide them with flexible work options. Babas deployed SAP SuccessFactors and SAP Payroll to be able to improve employee productivity as they continuously adapt and remodel workplace processes in the never normal. And they wanted to completely redesign employee experiences by better understanding their needs and be able to ensure that they remain connected and supported at all times. Today, Babas employees are seamlessly connected and enjoy a mobile-friendly user experience with social collaboration capabilities to access information anywhere and anytime. Our HR teams are also be able to support employees with data-driven insights, cloud payroll, and be able to have timesheet tracking at all times. So I hope that everybody be able to see some of the things have been changing, especially even though with these difficult times, but there are also good opportunities that we can work on.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And I liked what you said there about the people and the process and the platforms. And I think I appreciate that you need all three. And without the people, nothing happens, and the platforms can make things move so much faster. And I did a research paper recently. We talked about automation and how it can just streamline, and that's a very, very big focus I've noticed in this particular region. So now I'm going to ask CC. Now, as an entrepreneur in this panel, I realize that with Fave that you have done a lot of digital transformation with SMEs, and your platform has revolutionized the market. So can you tell us a bit more about how things have changed and what you do at Fave, or what Fave does for customers?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Adam. Yeah, I think echoing a lot of things I think the rest of the esteemed panelists have shared, right? So I think for Fave, we serve about 40,000 SMEs, of which 20,000 of those are in Malaysia, predominantly offline, right? And I think that segment that we serve, whether F&B, whether beauty wellness, offline retails and everything, tourist destinations, hotels industry, were all significantly impacted by COVID. So I think we see in the first hand and see how the last 2 years has been, right? 18, 20 months, how each of them, I still remember on the 18th of March, when Malaysia did our first movement control order, the sales of these 20,000 businesses in Malaysia on our platform dropped by 90%, comparing 18 March versus 17 March. One day, 90% drop. No business school, no business plan were ever taught that, right, in the history. And I think that was interesting, and see how different of them react, right? So some of them went in panic mode. Some decided, so maybe I should shut down temporarily. Some went on, tried many different things and different evolving as well. And then some of them more tech savvy. Some of them are maybe more prepared, already connected. Some of them were rushing on it. And I think it's very interesting to see how everyone, and I think that also brought everyone close together. So I think they started WhatsApp groups. I have in a WhatsApp groups of like 250 F&B owners, Telegram groups of 1,000 F&B owners, and different sectors, right? So I think it's seeing how everyone helping another. So I think one of the things is that before COVID, they see each other as a competitor. Post-COVID, they now together, going through the ups and downs together. So I think that's one shift. And I think what Faith does is that I think we help the offline businesses to, how do they solve their problems? That think of what big companies can do, whatever McDonald's, Starbucks can do. How do we enable any cafe on the roadside, any small chains, any offline retailer, 5 outlets, 3 outlets, 10 outlets, to be able to do the same thing at the large outlets? So example, take the payments acceptance. So that maybe big chains are able to get credit card at maybe about 1% rate, versus a small one used to be able to charge at 2%. So I think what we enable is everyone to be able to collect payments at 1%, whether credit card, debit cards, whether various e-wallets and everything through our platform. So it's consolidated across one integration, you get everything, right? So I think that's sort of one way. And then cashbacks. If you think on it, back then in the traditional way, people give physical coupon after you go to the shop. They say, okay, give you this paper voucher, come back next time. The more savvy one give you a loyalty cards. But each of us has only be able to willing to keep a few. And then maybe the more sophisticated one, maybe Starbucks will have the Starbucks app. But most businesses will not be able to get people to do that. And a lot of time using those things is only the most loyal customers. So I think what we did is enable every businesses that who want to enable your customers to give your customers cashback for their next visit to your own stores, able to do it seamlessly. whether offline, and then now we extended into online as well. So it's omni-channels, right? So I think a lot of it is taking it simple, whether gift cards the same thing, stock value cards. And then, so a lot of it, the way we do is just very straightforward thing of what the big players can do, how to make it easier, cheaper, better, faster for the smaller players to do. And I think what this COVID has also taught everyone is that adaptability. I think with SOP changes, moving open, close in the last 18, 20 months, I think all the companies, workforce as well, have all adapted, right? I think now any changes, whether by government or maybe by external force or even internal, I think people now know how to adapt within days. And I think these skills are going to bring all the companies a lot more resilient going through. And I think we see a lot of companies that who previously don't believe in technology or whatnot, pre-COVID days, they have run this business for 20 years, 40 years. Now people are all embarking on it. And I think it's an exciting time going ahead. Of course, there's still a lot of headwinds on the economy front, the disparity between those that rich and get poor. But I think that, looking forward to see how technology, digitalizations can transcend that and bring it closer for everyone.
Thank you, CC. It's interesting what you just said there, that it sounds like some businesses are reluctantly adopting these digital tools, and then when they do, they realize the enormous benefits that it can bring. And I think what your platform has done, what Fave has done, is make it more accessible. And as you build up more and more case studies or examples of businesses that have reinvented themselves or changed their business model by using these platforms, others will see and others will come. I think it's a fantastic success story. So thank you all. We've talked about the past 18 months, and thank you for not being all doom and gloom, but there's some fantastic insights there. Now I want to pivot to where we are right now. And I want to touch on this just briefly, because I then want to leave time for each of you to talk about what comes next and what we might think about in terms of planning the next 3 to 5 years. So firstly, I'm going to, Suhana, I'm going to ask you, given where we are right now, how can we maintain perhaps business continuity in uncertain times, or even better, what are your thoughts on how we might foster business growth within the emerging digital economy?
Okay, I'd like to start by sharing our definition of digital economy. And before this, and I think internationally, there's quite a lot of a definition of that, but I think one of our success is that we could finally come up with a definition. So the digital economy is defined as economic and social activities that involve the production and use of digital technologies by individuals, business, and government. And then we also have the 4R that entails the intensification of digital advancement across digital, physical, and biological domains. And as you know, as the transition intensifies, which will enable more sophisticated technology application, innovations, and the emergence of new business models across all sectors, the 4R will accelerate the growth of the digital economy. So digital economy, in a way, this is part kind of what we already discussed in the blueprint. It will afford nations with the opportunity to additional income, provided new skills, training, and opportunities to grow in a digital environment. It also opens up opportunities for all citizens from all walks of life to, in a way, learn new digital skills, help businesses improve the customer buying experience. I think Mr. Chow has explained on that. Business buying experience, improve business efficiency, explore new markets, and potentially reduce operating costs. In terms of, we have new revenue stream, physical products and services are now digital, more opportunities to integrate between economic sectors. We look at the value chains. Cloud computing allows businesses to procure services without having to own and maintain assets. Larger market engagement for commercial activities. Online business to expand market reach domestically and globally, and more local products to be marketed through e-commerce. I'd like to share what the government have embarked on. And then in terms of initiatives to increase e-commerce participation among MSMEs, the government, we have the Go E-commerce, the E-Trade, the 100 Go Digital and Warungku, as well as the Perkasa Penelitian Usahawan Kecil. This is a program to empower the small businesses, they call it Pupuk. And on the new business model, the government is in the midst of preparing a tailored digital roadmap for businesses to foster digital usage. In a way, we customize digital solution for MSMEs at different level of digitalization. So we noticed that the spread and the width. Every business is not the same. Some might be, but basically they need the same solution. But we need to identify where they are. Some we feel that they are okay, but then some we really need to help, especially for the micros. I think recently we have the digital economy centers, which at that center we give them training as well as even to market their products and how to take photos of their product. So if you can consider that very basic, but I think there is something that we need to do to help them get started. And once they get started, then they will exposed to other opportunities online, and they can move forward with other services provided by other companies. And in terms of the talent, the upskilling and skilling, the government have kind of under for the micros we have the call it Perkhidmatan Idaga Setempat. That is a kind of digital training for the B40s and also those interested in e-commerce. My Future Job Portal is a one-stop center for job seeker in need to and then to get employed. I think there are also training for professionals. We have the My Digital Workforce Work in Tech, incentives for employers to hire Malaysians for digital tech, and services job via salary and training subsidies. I think quite a lot are being promoted out there as through the Malaysia Productivity Nexus, and also there's other incentives and grants from the government. To increase productivity, there's we have data analytics, adoption of technology to automate the use of technology. We have the SME Business Digitalization Grant, the Smart Automation Grant, and SME Digital Accelerator. Under MDEC, we have those that innovate. We give them special grants for certain industry for creative content. We give them grants to start. And I think there's one also, the important component is on the cybersecurity, in which we need to look at how to protect, because the trust of the people is important. When you go online, the e-commerce is important. The trust is there. Malaysia, we have a lot of fraud scam cases. I don't know whether it's in Malaysia or I think it is always the same with other countries, but sometimes there's quite a lot of that in Malaysia. And it is important that we have a safe environment, and in ensuring the safe digital ecosystem, the business need to really invest in cybersecurity products and services, and to look into the kind of under our program. We have that the risk and compliance health check assessment that we a program to help SMEs to check their businesses, and then in a way to help them to have a better cybersecurity. Basically, in terms of businesses, the government provide the support. There's quite a lot of support out there. I mean, you need just to go to Mr. Google and try to find. I think it's within reach. Nobody can say that they don't know what's the government doing. So because people always like to say that the government didn't do anything, but when you Google it out, there's quite a lot of agencies that provide incentives, as well as the banks and private sector. Really, I think the bank also already embarked on cashless payment, and some also provide, that Maybank, they also provide, to use their certain platforms. There's quite a lot of platforms. I think you can Google out. There's lots of, and then under the government, I think under Shopee, under a certain ministry also have their own platform, like the Decimal, and all this will give them, ample opportunities to promote, to join the e-commerce and to market. And if they want to go further, because there are levels, when you start, and the intermediate, and when you want to go abroad, there are certain agencies that will help you towards that. Towards the the B40s, there are like rural entrepreneurs, ministries that will cater for you. So along the chain, there are always assistance up until you are going abroad to exports, to increase exports. Also, we have the market and MIDA. It's about the time that the businesses take this opportunity. And I think the government is also open that if you need other type of assistance, that you can reach out. We can discuss and maybe more tailor-made to the needs. because maybe there are people who say that we do not meet the demands, we do not fit in what the industry needed. But I think if you need something, you have to reach out. Then we will tailor. Usually, the government, like I said, we will provide the support for the growth of the industry, because post-COVID, I think we need to really work together to enhance to promote the business for the economic growth.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
thank you, Adam.
Yeah, thank you, Sahana. And something that you touched on there that I'm going to ask you about, KC, is that it sounds like there's a lot of incentives and structures there that are in place. A lot of this may come back to sentiment, business at the moment. So I wanted to ask you, given the work that SAP does, I mean, what is your sense? What is the business sentiment in Malaysia and maybe in the broader region at the moment? The degree of confidence. What are businesses thinking?
Yeah, obviously, I think Malaysia is on the road to recovery. I think, like what Dr. Swana said, there's a lot of incentive program, and we are very optimistic that SMEs be able to take full use of it. I think with the successful rollout of vaccination, things are slowly coming back to the never normal, and businesses, including SMEs that I've spoken, and too often stay ahead of this increasingly competitive environment. And SAP ourselves, our vision, like I mentioned earlier, is to really help every business entity transform itself.
Great. So, KC, let's get back to talking about what's your view on business sentiment at the moment, and what are you seeing with SAP?
Yeah, thank you, Adam. Malaysia, like I mentioned, is like what Dr. Suhana was saying. Malaysia is on the road to recovery, and with the successful rollout of vaccination, things are slowly coming back to the never normal. And businesses, including SMEs that I've spoken, and too often ask what it takes to stay ahead of the increasingly competitive business environment. At SAP, our sentiment, in fact, like I mentioned early in the session, our vision is really to help every business transform into becoming a best-run intelligent enterprise, particularly with the cloud technologies. Cloud first is about businesses be able to accelerate their digital transformation, and they need to rise to enable a cloud-first strategy. And that's the key to really survive and thrive in the never normal. So let's start with the first one, which is about R, which is part of the rise, run during uncertainty. Running a business in today's economy uncertainty requires a new ERP in the cloud that provides instant insight across your end-to-end business operation, so you can always analyze, collaborate, prepare, and plan for what's next and act immediately from anywhere. Next is about innovation ahead of your competitors. As recovery shows, winners to re-innovate their business processes and models faster in the cloud is really about deriving differentiated business outcomes in the context of their industry. This is really where you can stay ahead with your competitors. Third is about scale with speed, right? Businesses now can easily move into the modern cloud and safeguard their current ERP investment, enabling continuous innovation and operational scalability with a low total cost of ownership. This enables a shift from CapEx to OpEx, which makes it easier to drive their business remotely. Fourth is about enjoying your cost savings. Like we mentioned, cost pressures have intensified with the pandemic, making it critical to increase cost savings. A modern cloud ERP delivers intelligent automation across your entire business and driving every step of being changed from improvements to productivity, and at the same time be able to unlock new levels of efficiency and intelligent personalized insight to all your employees. More and more SME companies, even enterprise, are turning to cloud. Cloud is the means to an end and here to stay. And in the future, businesses today, like we all say, want to be an intelligent enterprise and be able to flourish in the digital economy. An intelligent enterprise is based on principles of connecting people to process and be able to embed analytics in real time and enabling the ease of use and business integration throughout the entire enterprise. So thank you, Adam, for being able to ask me that question.
Yeah, thank you, KC. Now, I'm conscious that we're running out of time and there's so much more we can cover. So what I'm going to do now is ask us to again pivot to the future. So we've talked about the past, we've talked about where we are now. And KC, you've just given us an example and talked about the important role of ERP and how that can support transformations and the role of cloud computing. I want us to now, if you don't mind, think about the future. So those who are dialing in and listening, and they're thinking about, well, this is all great. What do I do next? And so we have leaders who are joining us, executives who are dialing in today, thinking about their 3 to 5 to 10-year plan. Anything beyond 5 is a bit difficult, but let's say the next 18 months to 3 years. And what advice we might be giving to them, what considerations they should be thinking about in their planning to try and drive this transformation and capitalize on the rebound. And Alex, I'm going to turn to you first. So thinking about the longer term, what do you think are the important steps or considerations for organisations or policymakers in this region to prepare for the next phase of growth?
Yeah, thanks, Adam. That's an exciting question. And let's start with the outlook on the world economy. So now OECD, in its September this year interim economic outlook, is actually predicting a really strong 5.7% growth in the world economy for this year. So that's really a very positive spin, and it has been increasing from the May provision. So looking forward to a recovery. The recovery is faster and stronger than we thought in 2020, with vaccination and policies which support extensively firms and the digital transition. Dr. Suhana was giving a lot of examples of what the Malaysian government is doing and can be applauded for, from supporting the upskilling and the digital transition, but also on the financial companies, for example. Of course, policymakers also learned not to withdraw their macro support too quickly, and that's why the recovery is on track overall, of course, with variations in different countries and regions. And that's a problem. The recovery is uneven across countries and sectors. And the risk is a bit also that advanced economies are pushing ahead. And, in emerging markets, you still have more challenges when the vaccination coverage is not even in Southeast Asia, across ASEAN. It's some countries who are much lower in the vaccination rollout. And of course, you have a certain inflation outlook now with higher shipping prices, commodity, energy. We think this will fade, but it may also differ, and there's some worry there as well. The policy support was key, and supportive fiscal and monetary policies are still necessary, but now need to change to be more targeted in a way. Dr. Suhana gave a couple of examples where government support incentives for SMEs are very targeted and well-designed. And then, of course, a rapid vaccine distribution is really the key going forward. I guess the broader question is how to make us all more resilient to these kind of shocks. I mean, this is true on a personal level. It's true for governments, how to better perform, handle these kind of shocks in the future. But it's also due for businesses. And there, I mean, the digital transformation, of course, was a key is a key factor, as we heard a couple of examples here. Let me just say that we just had a meeting yesterday with ASEAN on skills and education with experts, TVET institutes and education policymakers. And it showed that, in this digital transformation, the competency requirements are increasing. The complexity is increasing. So the fear is not so much, because you said, Adam, you did a study on that jobs are going away only, because we always think new jobs are emerging. But the nature of the task will change, And so this is why it's very important that people upskill and rescale, and that's going forward a key task really for governments. And let me just maybe close in also highlighting that with Christmas in sight, we have seen peak transportation season is underway, but supply chains often remain a bit in disarray. And COVID has congested and shuttered the ports, and container shortages have left freight companies seeking out alternative routes and so on. And there are reports of shipping prices being at 10 times the normal price. And there are multiple causes of that, of course. But one of the fixes is, of course, infrastructure spending, building new ports. It takes decades. The other quicker fix can be to work on reforms and pro-competitive reforms in the logistics sector. And the OECD did just launch a study with the ASEAN economic ministers in September on actually analyzing the restrictions to the small packaging industry in the logistics sector. Now, the small packaging industry is the industry which feeds e-commerce, and the pricing in that industry it decides on whether a small company can actually go online and do e-commerce or not. And I mean, there's a lot of things governments can do to unleash entrepreneurial potential in the logistics sector and to maybe deregulate and get rid of many restrictions, which there are still all over ASEAN and in other parts of the world. And that's a kind of regulatory reset and fresh up, which doesn't cost that much. You know, it takes a strike with a pen and the textbook often to get rid of restrictions to, you know, buy a truck, drive a truck, and start a logistical business. Yeah. So I think that's a key factor also going forward to help companies to join the e-commerce game, which is so important going forward. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex. Let me come back to something that you mentioned just before. You talked about education, and there was a question that's come through from someone in the audience, and so I want to see if you want to take this one. It's on education. Virtual learning is clearly key, was key during the pandemic. Any suggestions on approaches and strategies as we move into the future, the post-pandemic? I think a few of you have touched on education. Did you want to take that one, Alex? Did you want to talk about the importance of education?
I mean, you know, OECD does this PISA surveys, checking the competencies of 14, 15 years old, all more than 100 countries. And Southeast Asia is doing pretty good on literacy, mathematics. But, you know, the interesting new development is that, you know, social competences become more important. You know? And of course, digital competences become important, but it's interesting how the job demands are changing, and that actually our education systems have to get up to speed on that. You know, so that it's not only numerical and literary skills anymore. There are other skills which are required: flexibility, creativity. The problem is that everything we do which is repetitive can be an AI in the future, you know, and therefore the kind of jobs we see clearly a curve going up, which require higher cognitive skills. So I think virtual training is a tool, of course, to achieve that, but the key is really to develop the skills in our kids and grandchildren to basically cope with these new job requirements in the future on the digital, but also on the more complex cognitive and being flexible and of course intercultural work environments and so on. So that's really the key challenge going forward. I see.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. Suhana, did you have anything to add on that?
I do agree on that, on education, that we need to have kind of a lot of, because it's a challenge, right? Because I can see through my, the efforts the teachers undertake, and sometimes it's a challenge to get even the students to participate, and even though they participate, the other things at the back. So it's a challenge. Some say it's a lost 1 year. You cannot teach the standard one to be, to constantly, under doing the online learning. It's how to create that again. But I do believe that, when there's less interactive, then we need to really look at the social aspects of that education. It's not about, some people said, okay, you have that in place, but basically the outcome of it, how effective that is, and whether we have other ways of, to enhance the interest of students. Because I think the students now, I'm not sure, maybe there are some exceptional students, but basically they don't. I mean, when you say, oh, you can go to school next day, it's not. They didn't. I know it doesn't excite them. They say, oh, they have to go to school. I cannot have it online, and even online they are playing games and all that. It's a challenge. I think when we move forward, talent, human capital is very important, especially for Malaysia. And we have this, and then, as in Malaysia also, we have kind of, in terms of inclusivity, there are still people, cannot afford, and this connectivity problems is there. So there's lots of issues. I worried that there might be gaps, the digital divide. The challenge is for how to reduce the digital divide, and I mean to excel the students and all that. So it's a big thing, but we hope that post COVID-19, then there are other things that we can really look into. Maybe in terms of kind of focus in what we really want. It's about time to look into TVET and all that. So which is more interested to the students compared to just learning on the kind of text and theories things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I have 2 teenage boys, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Oh boy, interesting times. CC, I'm going to turn to you now, and you're coming from a very unique perspective, and so thinking about the future. And so, what advice would you give to organizations who are thinking about embarking on this digital journey of engaging with their customers? You talked about omni-channel. What would your advice be, and what do you think the sentiment is at the moment from organizations that you've been talking with?
Yeah, so I think it's a very good question, right? I think it's thinking of the future, and I think this maybe don't think of where the puck is at, it's where the puck's going to go to. And I think the next 1-2 years, especially, I think it's still going to be volatile. I think that right now, especially if you look at Europe, the cases are going up again. So there might not be a full lockdown, but there is a chance of another partial lockdown, different kind of restrictions and whatnot, right? So I think the things are not going to be fully just full blossom, but I think that there'll be, and so I think the organization to look at it is that understand your customer. So I think don't fall in love with the tools or technologies or anything. Really understand what your customer needs, what your staff need, what the organization needs. So what problem you try to solve. Think from the root aspects, right? And then let's say your customers, do you want to get into more engagement? Do you want to do it? So a lot of times it's not the cool technology that's going to solve the problem. A lot of time is how do you, if you need to contact the customer more frequently, which is the best way to reach out? Where, and it also varies by organizations. Where do your customers at? So it's certain, if your segment is a more younger crowd, maybe your customers at TikTok, maybe that's the segment you go to. Maybe if you have a more serious crowd, maybe it's on Twitter, right? And whether your users are on video, on a text, on podcasts, right? Or Clubhouse or whatnot, right? So I think it's every segment varies. So I think a lot of the time is thinking out, and I think upskilling your team to think native, and also a lot of time is also like if you see that when you hire a new staff, so some organizations lost some of their staff and everything. So think of the future. What kind of organization you want to build? How do you embrace that? So I think the hybrid workplace that I think just like Casey talked about is here to stay. It's not going to change, right? I think we are going to move, for FAIF, we have already moved permanently hybrid, right? And I think that as we think on the whole structure, I think that Dr. Suhaina talked about the Malaysia plan and everything. As we move forward, things will evolve. And I think it's each organization thinking of what's the competitive edge? How are you going to serve your customer easier, cheaper, better, faster?
Yeah, thank you. And what I like about that is that you're starting with the end in mind, that the platforms are there to serve the purpose of connecting with the customer. I think part of the challenge perhaps is understanding what can be done with these tools in ways that people haven't imagined before, and that business model change. So thank you for sharing that perspective. Now, I want to turn to KC. Can I get your view? So thinking about the future, what are you seeing that leading organizations are doing to prepare for the future and trying to capitalize on growth while, as CC mentioned, there's still some uncertainty around?
Yeah, that's a very good question. In fact, CC brought out some very good points just now. Change is inevitable, and it's also same time disruptive, and it happens faster than companies can adapt. And this is why we want to partner with companies to break away from the barrier of the past, from barriers of complexity, so that they're able to transform themselves to become more efficient entities or companies, so that they are not only survive but be able to thrive in today's borderless and globalized digital economy. Gone are the days of expensive IT infrastructure. I'm coming from a point of view for the IT business. A decade ago, we buy a lot of hardware infrastructure. Today, with the cloud, you can rent and be able to use the advantages of OPEX as opposed to CAPEX that was the norm previously. And prior to the pandemic, we have seen companies of all sizes undergo digital transformation. At the heart of this transformation to the SAP S4HANA. And just a quick background, the S4HANA is a complete enterprise, or we call it the ERP system with inbuilt intelligence technologies, including AI, machine learning, and advanced analytics. It really helps the companies to be able to adopt new business models and be able to manage business change at speed and be able to orchestrate internal and external resources and use the predictive power of AI. However, this transformation that started before the pandemic was slow moving. It had to take into account multiple elements and comprising the transformation, which is like the business process, people's mindsets, integrations, and infrastructure. And then when the pandemic hit all of us, the transformation had to take a pause at the start of the pandemic, but was put into priority initiatives to keep operations running under the new normal. So with the pandemic persisting, most and if not all companies were looking to be able to minimize high upfront costs and get faster time to value. And from what we have learned and seen in today's world, the companies that thrive are the ones be able to adapt quickly, like what CC was mentioning, and businesses that have quick to expand their offerings online to avoid losing the customer base, and a good number turning into digital platforms, e-commerce, be it food delivery applications, to ensure income, right? At the end of the day, that's what it counts. And indeed, the COVID-19 pandemic has revealed how the future of every industry digital transformation is literally in the cloud, and it's really the next golden era of digitalization. Companies are like SMEs are be able to develop services, tools, and applications for the benefit of shared customers' digital transformation. Business can also iterate solutions faster and seamlessly integrate them with their existing landscapes. They are built to build extensions to business processes and quickly freeing up resources and be able to drive innovation and business transformation, right? So I think one good example I just want to share that gone through this was a company that we work quite well with is Aspen Glove. Aspen Glove is a manufacturer of medical grade latex and neutral gloves that has always emphasized their innovation as the basis of their decision making and vision. Glove manufacturing used to be a manual industry, but they have automated production end-to-end as much as possible. Aspen Glove chose SAP S/4HANA Cloud, which is a complete ERP system with inbuilt intelligent technologies that be able to revolutionize the quality customizations and speed of delivery to be able to meet evolving and end customer demands. SAP real-time data systems be able to disperse information to as many people as necessary, so decisions can be made quicker and duplications are avoided. It allows Aspen Glove to be able to offer their services instantly with full information and be able to enable them to be more agile and competitive. At the end of the day, the result, Aspen Glove today can now compete with the big boys in this highly competitive glove environment. At SAP, we will continue to support our customers as they embark on the digital transformation journey of cloud and generally promoting awareness and greater cloud adoption in Southeast Asia for the benefit of society as a whole.
Thank you, KC.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, I've just realized that we're punched for time, so I'm going to wrap things there. And what I want to do is I'm going to ask each of you just one piece of advice that you want to give to the audience, and you've only got 10 seconds. All right, so Alex, can you go first? One piece of advice.
I would highlight the focus on upskilling. Don't leave behind the informal sector. Use, the technical vocational education training system, and really help the new next generation to develop the new competencies which are needed for the new kind of jobs.
Fantastic. Suhana.
Yeah, the digital transformation is a big agenda for the government. We will support you. You also support us, and together we need to grow. We need to post COVID-19 is the time for us to bounce back the economy. So everybody, this is a task for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. CC.
Yeah, start with the end in mind, embrace changes, and basically make it easier, cheaper, better, faster for all your stakeholders.
KC.
Yeah, I would echo Dr. Suhana. Digital transformation for the SMEs is evidently very important. And it's a journey for all of us. And our biggest satisfaction as an organization, SAP, is really the organization be able to benefit from the transformation initiatives. Their success is SAP's success.
Fantastic. I'm going to wrap things there. All for joining, those who joined us today for the panel. Very special thanks to Suhana, Alex, and CC for joining the panel and sharing your insights and experience today. It's been fantastic. And now I'm going to pass back to the MC.
Thank you so much, Adam. And guys, I hope that you have enjoyed our first panel discussion of the StarBiz Summit as much as we here did. Thank you so much to Dr. Suhana, to CC, to Dr. Boomer, Casey, and Adam for such an engaging and insightful discussion. It's a great honor for us to have all of you here powering our summit program part from the conversation, and you know that you are not alone. In fact, we are here to help you. And not all, we are also here to give you some prizes. As I know, we are giving away a total of 15 cool gadgets worth 4,000 ringgit in total at this summit. And at the opening session, you will be able to win any of these 3 gadgets: the Samsung Galaxy Buds, the Skull Candy Jip Plus wireless earbuds, and the D-Voom Macchiato Bluetooth speakers. So, if you want to know how you can stand a chance to win one of the 3 lucky winners of the opening session, all you can do is you can complete the short survey by scanning the QR code as shown on the screen, or you can go to bit.ly/StarBiz1. We truly value your feedback, as it is you who are so important to us, and you are the ones who keep providing us with more information so that we can give you a better event experience. We will announce the 3 winners from the opening session at the next session tomorrow morning. And yes, if you have enjoyed the opening session of StarBiz Summit, we have more great program lineups for you tomorrow, where we will deep dive into specific subject matters. Day 2 of the StarBiz Summit will be anchored by 4 BizCon breakout tracks. So this is how it's going to work for tomorrow. There will be 2 parallel breakout tracks that will run concurrently in the morning and afternoon respectively. So you've got 2 tracks in the morning and another 2 tracks in the afternoon. You have to choose which track you want to go to in the morning or in the afternoon. In the morning you have 2 tracks to choose from, in the afternoon you have 2 tracks to choose from. And if you are feeling ambitious, or if you're feeling like into it, then you can get 2 devices and watch them simultaneously. We welcome your views and your attention. For tomorrow morning, we will be covering the digital SME and the manufacturing and construction tracks. To learn more about the summit program and the speaker profiles, check out the agenda. And if you are in Jubilia, you can visit bit.ly/StarBiz2021. In Jubilia, remember to visit our sponsors and partners' virtual booths to find out about their latest product offerings. If you need any assistance from us, email us at events@thestar.com.my. You can also email starbizsummit2021@jubilia.com for technical assistance on the platform Jubilia. I'm signing out, but this page will remain live in the next 10 to 15 minutes, so please remember to complete your short survey and stand a chance to win one of the 3 cool gadgets. Please also share the StarBiz Summit with your colleagues and your industry peers and invite them to check out the BizCon breakout tracks tomorrow. Don't keep knowledge to yourself, share it. We're all in this together. Thank you so much, and I look forward to welcoming you again tomorrow morning at 9:30. Bye.
You've heard it before. The connected age. Life at the speed of the internet. It's a digital world. What you might not have heard is that we can keep it safe. Because at CrowdStrike, we stop breaches. So wherever you go, go with confidence. Anywhere. Welcome to Anywhere. CrowdStrike. We stop breaches.
You always knew you'd be in for a ride. There'd be ups, downs, twists, and unexpected turns. It would be an exciting journey, even a little scary at times. And although it's difficult to predict what's around every corner, there's something else you understood. Transformation is essential for your business, your people, and your customers, so you can stay agile, resilient, and relevant in an ever-shifting marketplace. At SAP, we understand that true transformation is a journey too. It goes beyond the edges and deep into the core of your business. But it's a journey you don't have to take alone. No matter where you're starting from and where you want to go, we're by your side to simplify planning and execution and integrate data, intelligent tech, with cutting-edge ERP that will accelerate outcomes on your terms and on your timelines. The road ahead is clear. The next turn truly transformative. It's your time to rise with SAP.
the future. Welcome to the future. Here we are making history. Higher than we've ever been. You're gonna wanna get ready. Get ready, get ready. Welcome to the future.
This is the new world of work. Each day looks different than the last. But whatever work becomes, the ServiceNow platform will make it just flow. Whether it's finding new ways to help you serve your customers, orchestrating a safe return to the office,
Wait, an office? What's an office?
or solving a workplace challenge that's yet to come. Wherever the new world of work takes your business, the world works with ServiceNow.
So I say the word innovation and you immediately think, the pulley. Wait, what? Stay with me. Let's go back to around 25 BC. Archimedes of Syracuse. Major big brain dude. He had this incredible idea. Here's how his buddy Plutarch reported it. He said Archimedes moved an entire warship using pulleys and his own strength. That is innovation. Not 2.0 or an upgrade or the next generation, but something that changes the way we think and work and live. The heralded breakthroughs have more often than not merely walked to the edge of innovation. The cloud and AI and low code. Complex problems can only be solved by solutions that don't cause more problems. So what would Archimedes do today? He'd build a pulley and call it robotic process automation. Make the tech learn the human, name the task, name the workplace. RPA allows companies to automate at the UI level, connecting disparate technologies. Granted, that's a really wonky sentence. All it means is this: you and your employees can now pull vastly more than your own weight.